Thank you for joining. I see so many people in our Zoom room. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. If you feel comfortable, share your name and location. And also, I'm curious about the linguistic diversity in our virtual space. So share what language do you speak? I personally speak Korean as my native language, and I'm learning and speaking Spanish to my Latinx students in California. But what about you? What language do you speak, or languages do you speak? We will begin shortly. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our first workshop, Ohana Center of Excellence workshop, titled Novel Digital Interactive Theater-Based Intervention to Promote Empathy, Mental and Emotional Well-being among AA and HPI communities. I will introduce myself briefly. I'm Dr. Kyungmi Choi. I use she, they pronouns, professor in counselor education at San Jose State University. With the Ohana Center of Excellence, I serve as a program specialist and also regional community facilitator. And many of you know about our Ohana Center. So brief introduction. We are here to serve diverse group of population. So we serve Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and also Pacific Islanders. What we do here, we are a source of empowerment, education, and support for individuals seeking behavioral health care, including mental health and substance use resources. We center holistic and cultural approaches to serving the needs of AA and HPI communities. So please check out our website, and we have trainings and webinars, workshops, and more, lots resources that may be supporting you and your work. Now, I am really honored to introduce today's speaker. I will introduce Dr. Yuen first, and then Peggy, one of the team members, will introduce the entire team. Dr. Eunice Yuen is an associate professor and psychiatrist at the Yale School of Medicine. She's a neuroscientist and child psychiatrist by training. She's associate medical director at the Parent and Family Development Program at Yale Child Study Center. Her research in children's mental health covers from basic science on genetics, neurobiology, to community-based advocacy, medical education, and intervention. Dr. Yuen grew up in Hong Kong and is now a mother of 2 Asian American children. This unique background fosters her academic interest in Asian American mental health and family-centered intervention. She's the founder and director of Yale Chat Together, a culturally and family-oriented program using drama vignettes as educational tools to promote emotional wellness in Asian children, young adults, and parents. Dr. Yuen is also the principal investigator of the Acting Together program, a culturally informed clinical education for Asian American professional trainees through improvisation and theater. I will go ahead and hand it over to Peggy, and she will introduce her team.
Thank you so much, Dr. Che. Give me 1 second while I pull up our team's PowerPoint. All right, great. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's workshop titled A Novel Digital Interactive Theater-Based Intervention to Promote Empathy, Mental, and Emotional Well-Being among AANHPI Individuals. So I'd like to introduce our team, and as Dr. Che did, this is Dr. Yuen. She is the child and adolescent psychiatrist and also the founder and director of Yale Chat Together, located at Yale University. She's also one of tonight's presenters and narrators as well. I'd like to also introduce the rest of our team. So to introduce myself, my name is Peggy Wong, and I have the honor of being your Chat Together MC tonight. To share a little bit about myself, I am a second-generation Asian American who is pursuing her MSN in psychiatric mental health nursing at Yale School of Nursing. I am interested in mental health regarding immigrant and minority health, and to also better understand the cultural variations in the prevalence, presentation, and also treatment of psychiatric disorders. Next, I'd like to introduce Evelyn Kim. Evelyn is a current high school junior at Choate Rosemary Hall. A dedicated participant in theater, she acts, directs, and also writes plays. As a second-generation Korean American, she hopes to promote awareness for and aid the destigmatization of mental health for AAPI families through Yale Chat Together. In her free time, she enjoys volunteering for local Connecticut food banks and also reading screenplays. Next, we have Skylar Liu. Skylar is the fourth-year medical student at Albany Medical College in Albany, New York. Previously, she received her BS in neuroscience in 2019 from Johns Hopkins University. She is applying for a psychiatry residency position this cycle with interests in child and adolescent psychiatry and public psychiatry. She serves on National APAMSA as a Regional 1 director with a passion for promoting the health of the AANHPI community. Next, we have Vicky Wang. Vicky is a fourth-year medical student at Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. She is currently applying into psychiatry for the 2023 to 24 cycle. At Vanderbilt, Vicky serves as the co-president of APAMSA for the second consecutive year. She is passionate and actively involved in numerous other initiatives focused on wellness, mentorship, and education. Finally, we introduce Firen Zhang. Firen is a postgraduate associate in the Child Study Center at Yale University, focusing on the mental health and well-being of children and caregivers in early education settings. She graduated from Columbia University in the summer of 2022 with a double master's degree in counseling psychology. Before joining the Yale Child Study Center, she worked in the bullying prevention and mental health promotion lab at the University of Maryland, intending to understand families' unique experiences and ultimately promote Asian American teens and their families' resilience and success. Now I'd like to pass the time back to Dr. Yuen as she will share more about the Chat Together program and the initiatives.
All right, thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Dr. Che, and also thank you, Ohana. I'm so delighted to be here, so honored, and bring our team to share what we do, and I really look forward to learn from the interaction as well. So excited here. So Yale Chat Together acronym stands for Compassionate Home Action Together. So we are a co-op organization, really formed serendipitously during the pandemic, as we shown here. As we know now, we are like behind the pandemic. Like we realized that, you know, like back then it was such a emotional distress for among the Asian American family, a lot of family conflicts, xenophobic attack, and all of that happening. And we realize we are really lacking a space to allow people connect together through digital platform. And so at that time, like we started having this mission to using a very unique medium, interactive theater, to talk about mental health in a really lighthearted way, to introduce communication within the family of Asian American community. And we are also culturally sensitive with the goal to promote healthy child-parent communication and emotional wellness. And of course, we want to break the stigma of mental health. Next slide, please. So this is a recent publication about our work. So it is open access. Any one of you are interested, this is like our foundation of reporting what our organization does, how we respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, and introduce our entire digital program that composed of six components that I'm going to discuss, and how we, as a platform, to connect to many people during that time and continue moving on. Next slide, please. Now, this is a cartoon showing the schematic about like the 6 core component of what Chat Together does. One of the key component, which is what we want to show tonight, is the interactive theater. Using a theater, we want to create a platform to allow communication, especially within the family, between the children and the family, how we can showcase about difficult conversation around mental health. And the right-hand side of the bubble, from the theater context, we also want to promote mental health education and bring the education become a lay language, bring it to the public audience. We also do a lot of research, qualitative mixed method study, to kind of like showing how the effectiveness of our program. We also do a lot of peer support in the community, such as what we do today. We reach out to many grassroots organizations within the community, including churches, community center, also like local school, or target audience could be parents, could be mental health provider, could be students, could be churchgoers, so many like community lay audience. So we reach out to them to have a skit event, just like what we do tonight. Collaboration, we want to build partnership with many grassroots organizations. We even recently, we have a project collaborate with community AAPI artists, where we hold a community art exhibition while we're doing theater, doing like talking about mental health at the art exhibition. So it's pretty cool. Another component, as we show our whole team here, we compose of a cascade of mentorship. It is really a humbling experience to lead and co-lead and encourage each other, have a cascade of young people to work together for a very shared mission, to help for the community. So that's something we really put a lot of effort in that too. Next slide, please. So for what we do today, just put in some context of what we do about the skit. So this is a model that adopts from the model of theater of the oppressed, which is originated from Brazil in 1970 by Gustavo Bou, which is the picture showing here. Theater of oppressed, actually in New York City, they still exist, have a practice with a town hall show, or even on the street, they have like performance. Basically, you have a town hall of people when you have two people in disagreement, and there's a moderator who walk into the conversation. It started with a problematic scenario, and followed by the moderator, who kind of like go in to intervene and trying to help people to find a conflict resolution by incorporating the audience, who may be like supporting the pro and cons, and eventually found a middle ground for the conflict resolution. And a similar model has been informed in medical education program, public initiative, etc. For In Chat Together, we use the similar format in talking about child-parent communication, conflictual conversation around mental health. So this is like the workflow of what we do for creating Chat Together skit production. We do improvisation, we help writing the script development, using our personal story, especially we identify ourselves as Asian American, and we kind of like using our own story about with our family and creating the script with a cultural adaptation to our community. And we also act out the skit as well, and we create many digital recorded video editing, and in some cases, such as what we do tonight, we live perform that in a community event. So very excited, we will be live performing the skit in front of everybody, and we have a discussion for that. Okay, next slide, please. So I will pass the time to Peggy. We actually have a study based on to evaluate our experience who participated in the skit development. Peggy, pass the time to you.
Thank you, Dr. Yuen. Thank you so much for your presentation on the Chat Together initiative as well. So I've had the pleasure to work on Chat Together's latest project that looks at how therapeutic the Chat Together program is in terms of it being an intervention for Asian Americans. To give you some background as to what was involved, I wanted to share some of our data highlights regarding skit development. So in our study, we identified the first stage of skit development as being able to identify skit topics and also collaborators. We identify skit topics from the Council of Members within the Asian American community, and in order to minimize the risk of creating scenes that were irrelevant or even stereotypical scenes, we used real narratives. We also invited collaborators to participate in number one, improvising the scene, or number two, advising on the scene as an expert consultant for planning, improvising, and or editing stages based on their lived experiences. The second stage involves planning the scene. This means identifying each character's identity, personality, background, and relational connection to the child parent dyads. Some characters' parameters included age, jobs, hobbies, sexual orientation, immigration status, and also mental and physical health conditions as well. Planning the scene allowed us to really create a roadmap of the dialogue that helped us represent these experiences from the characters and their actual perspectives. The third stage is improvisation, and because most of the participants didn't receive formal improv training, theoretical concepts were introduced to them. For example, using the yes and technique, where scene partners have to agree to the reality of the situation, whatever's at hand. Doing so unveiled some more information about the characters, which would then prompt them to create their next interaction within improv. In the next stage, writing, we transcribed each improv session verbatim to review and also consider highlights and to serve as building blocks for preferred lines or dialogues from each intake. We consulted a board-certified child psychiatrist for cultural adaptation and relevant mental health discussion in order to develop moderation talking points corresponding to whatever it is that the skit's content involved. And finally, community engagement through live performance and digital dissemination. We used a finalized script for digital video production, live performance, and community events, and really passed on and disseminated this information digitally for networks and communities, and just for the ease of just being able to have immediate access to our resources. Okay, and as a result of our study, I would like to just highlight the following themes that we found. These are sub-themes. The first domain, which includes therapeutic impact, included 4 sub-themes. The first is bicultural identity. We found that participants were able to identify dual aspects of their identity, shaped by their cultural heritage of their families, and also includes their experience growing up or living in the US. They acknowledged differences and also tensions between the two. Regarding acculturative gap, participants were able to highlight the existence of a acculturative gap between Gen Zers and also their immigrant parents. We found that participants found a difference in how their present culture is with their parents' cultures or their grandparents' cultures, and this typically exacerbated the typical child-parent intergenerational differences. therefore making it really hard for participants to really connect with their families. Within the sub-theme of empathy among the AA community, participants gained empathy to certain skit topics, even after feeling unfamiliar with certain topics that they were either performing or involved in. They became more aware of their experiences and also began to develop a sense of solidarity with people within the Chat Together community. With mental health stigma, participants humanized the characters that they played. They were able to really discuss their mental health struggles that either didn't happen or otherwise would not have happened if they didn't experience how the scenario could have turned out. It really gave a value to the what if scenarios. In the second domain, we looked at the sub-themes of feasibility and obstacles. In improv and skit writing, we used skit writing to process our own experiences and to recall lived experiences and interactions. Participants found it pretty challenging that writing skits and performing them actually made them a little bit uncomfortable. And that's because we don't really act out or let alone act them out in real life experiences on a daily basis. Regarding acting, participants found that it was pretty therapeutic by playing the opposite role, but challenging as well to portray another person's perspective. In live performance and digital dissemination, participants said that the final product were authentic because you really can't, and I quote this, you can't really block out art the way that you block out language. And this makes performers and actors very vulnerable to reactions because they're asked by questions from the audience or from the moderator about what they would like to happen in the scene. And normally when we go through these experiences in our everyday life, we don't have a moderator ask us, how would you like this to really play out? So it really kind of gave us kind of a way to really express ourselves and to really be comfortable with how we'd like to progress in certain situations. Okay, so now I'd like to invite everyone to watch one of our skits titled Parents with All the Solutions. Our performers today will be Vicky Wang, who will be playing the role of the daughter named Jessica, and also Skylar Liu, who is going to be playing the role of the mother. I'd like to ask everyone to please turn your Zoom view into speaker view so that when our performers speak, they can be spotlighted. And it would be a little bit easier for us to follow along. I'd like to also make a very quick statement. I'd like to mention that given the heterogeneity of the Asian diaspora, our skit may only cover a subset of the uniqueness of our cultures. However, the application of the intervention may extend to other racial groups and ethnic groups, as well as other ages as well. We embrace diversity and inclusion and also sharing and learning from our knowledge in order to make us better together. Okay. And as a reminder, I'd like to ask everyone to turn their view into Zoom speaker view so that each speaker will be spotlighted as they speak.
Okay, so we have we have the pin for Skylar, who will be mom, and Vicky will be Jessica. So we'll have the pin. Okay, so let's mom, please unmute yourself, and Jessica, please unmute yourself. And all right, so ready? We're ready for the skit. Okay, so introduction. Jessica is an Asian American high school student who is trying to talk to her mother about feelings of depression and wanting to hurt herself. Jessica is also being stressed by the cyberbullying, having people send racist message about Asian bringing COVID to the US on social media. Jessica has no friend, isolated at home, parents are fighting, grandparents are sick, a lot of stressor on her mind. Here's the scene. Problematic scenario. Action.
Jessica, what is wrong with you? Grandma just told me you're thinking about hurting yourself and you're really sad and you want to see a doctor? There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to see a doctor. What's wrong?
Oh my God, Mom, like, geez,
What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I've been really sad, okay?
Why are you feeling sad?
Oh my God, stop yelling at me, Mom. See, this is why I didn't, I don't know why, okay? The last couple of months have just been really stressful and
Yeah, for all of us.
okay, yeah, cool. But for me, I don't know. I've just been really, school's been closed. I can't see my friends. I can't go anywhere. Like, I've been getting so much crap online from like these random people. I don't even go to school with them. Just these random people keep harassing me about like coronavirus and, oh, it's your fault because you're Asian. And
Delete Instagram then.
I blocked them. I can't delete Instagram. I like it. That's how I talk to my friends.
There's something called calling your friends or Zooming them.
Mom, no one does that. That's so awkward.
That's because you're awkward.
Oh my God, Mom.
I said it. I have a weird kid.
That's so mean when you say that. I don't think you understand.
I'm just being real. These are your problems. These things are making you unhappy. So you need to stop thinking about these internet strangers and you won't be unhappy. You won't need to see a doctor. Okay? Just don't be unhappy.
Mom, I try to do that, but it doesn't work. It's more than that. That's why I think I need help.
And I'll tell you right now, just think about other people's lives. For example, there are kids in China who don't have their parents around and to do all the housework. They have to go and work these jobs that pay very little money and life is super hard for them. You don't have to do that. Like, think about that. Your life is so much better. Have some perspective.
I know that. Like, yes, I'm very happy that I don't have to.
Good.
But Mom, it doesn't work.
That's what's wrong with you. You haven't tried it.
And I have tried it and it doesn't help. It doesn't make me happier to know that other people are suffering. Like, honestly, it makes me more sad.
Why? When I'm thinking about something sad and I stop to think about how much worse it could be, I appreciate my situation more. Try that.
Yeah, like I appreciate the house and the roof and not having to be in child labor.
Yeah, so there's nothing to be sad about.
But I'm still, you and Dad are arguing all the time. You're always yelling at me. And like with Grandma getting sick last week.
But she's better this week. She got a shot. She got better.
Yeah, I get that. I know that. But I was still scared. It was just too much. And I don't know how to.
But there's nothing wrong. So you don't need to see a doctor. Don't need to think about hurting yourself. There's nothing wrong with you, okay?
Oh my God, Mom. I'm trying to tell you that I need help.
I am helping you. I'm here to help you right now. We all love you, okay? So you'll be fine, okay? Just think about the happy things so then you won't think about hurting yourself and then you won't need to see a doctor, okay? Just try to be more happy, Jessica, okay?
Fine. I'll try.
Okay, let's take a pause. It sounded like a pretty heated conversation just now, Jessica and Mom. And I also invite our audience to kind of like witness this moment as well. This skit may or may not be applied to your household, but like that some of that content maybe. So I want to kind of like have people to think about that. If you were Jessica or you were Mom, what would you do? Kind of think into their shoes about what could that look like. All right, so let's take a pause and reflect about what just happened, all right? Now, Jessica, share with us, how do you feel and what do you think what just happened with Mom conversation?
I feel like I was trying to be closer with my mom and tell her how I'm feeling, but she wasn't really like interested in understanding why I felt the way I felt. I think she just wanted to help me feel better in her way, which was not working for me, but I just don't feel like my concern was being communicated or understood.
It sounds like she is trying her way to make you feel better, but not really felt it is working. Okay, and how does that make you feel? Can you describe a little bit your feeling?
It doesn't make me feel heard. I can say that it doesn't make me feel what I wanted to feel, and it makes me feel like she is again like not, interested in why I'm feeling the way I feel, and I don't feel cared for the way I would want to be.
That sounds really tough. That sounds hard. Must have been really frustrated. Okay. Now I want to hear from Mom too. Mom, what do you feel? How do you feel? And what do you think what just happened when you talk to Jessica?
Yeah, so I'm very worried about Jessica, you know, her coming to me and telling me she's feeling sad. I just want her to be happy. She has many things to be happy about, and I'm trying to give some solutions as how to she can be happy.
Mm-hmm. Sounded like you really care, worry about Jessica, and you're trying to help. But somehow like the two side of you are not meeting at each other. Yeah. Okay. So that's where we're at now. Yeah. So I'm a moderator. I don't pro mom or pro Jessica, but I want to kind of point out some observation. And again, I invite our audience to think about some of these observation may happen to you, to your family, and what would you do if you were in their shoes? Okay. Um, so first thing I noticed about the language being described here, including verbal, nonverbal, and I hear mom point out, started the conversation with what is wrong with you, with sort of like the tone and like the gesture, what is wrong with you, like screaming at Jessica. You know, like when we talk about the language, like so this family, like we it happened in an immigrant family, maybe talking more than one languages. At least and so I imagine like our audience, some of us may speak more than one languages, which is awesome. Like myself, I speak Cantonese and Mandarin. And what is wrong with you with a phrase in Cantonese and Mandarin? It could mean like 你怎么了? Like it sounds pretty neutral. But if what is wrong with you in English, it started a different meaning. It could mean like what is wrong with a person. So I'm wondering, like, have people to ponder about this, like cross-cultural, cross-languages. When we mean to say something, the meaning could have been misinterpreted by another person, especially we're talking about like Jessica in the story that like maybe like Jessica is like born here as a second generation, may have a little bit slightly different understanding with that phrase. So I'm wondering, Jessica, when mom was saying, what is wrong with you? With the tone, with that language, with that word, what does that make you feel? You want to share with us?
Yeah, I think that question just already makes me feel like I'm at fault for something, like I'm already doing something that's wrong. So it just feels like my feeling or whatever it is already my fault.
So it sounds like have some internalized, some personal negative image about that. Yeah. Okay. So we don't assume this is what we think is what mom initiates saying that. So mom, let's share with us, what was your intention when you mentioned what is wrong with you when you mentioned that?
Yeah, I was very concerned when Jessica said she was sad, so I was just asking to see what was really going on so I could provide solutions to make her more happy. I wasn't trying to say there was anything really like messed up about her or anything necessarily like bad going on. I was just trying to figure out how to best help her with solutions.
Yeah, I see. See, like I'm glad we get to talk about it. It's like if we don't open up to share, we actually do not know actually mom came from a great intention with like doesn't want to hurt Jessica either. Yeah, so that's one point I want to bring it up. And the second observation, I see that like perhaps it's really perhaps common practice in many of our family here. That like I see that Jessica was trying to reach out for help. Mom is trying to help, but offering a lot of solution. I think that's why the title of the skit called "Parents with All the Solution." I hear mom saying like, "Delete Instagram." Trying to think about happy things, trying to think something like someone even worse than you. So like try to be happy. And a lot of solution, a lot of advices, but something is really missing. Now, like I guess Jessica, I'm curious when I have you to share with us that what do you think mom can change? Like what do you wish mom could do so that this conversation is easier? Like you're reaching out for help. What are you looking for from mom? Like what could mom change to meet your needs?
Yeah, I think it would have been really nice if mom just tried to first understand why I was feeling the way I did. And even if she, didn't have those experiences, like just knowing that she was open to, what I'm feeling and wanting to understand where I'm coming from would make me more open to hearing her, like wanting to find a solution as well.
Yeah. That's like that's such a great point. And I think like perhaps like from a parent perspective, it is easy to say, but it's really hard to do, especially when you're at that like stressful moment, the fight or flight response that really worry for you, Jessica. That I hear you, like the point of that mom could have been like validating, more empathizing, like thinking from your angle, taking perspective from your point of view before offering the solution. So I guess that's something parent could do, like, you know, like we that acknowledging that like that could be really hard when someone like saying something mean on the internet. So that's one thing. I imagine I will invite perhaps when we get to the breakout room, we can discuss more about that. What could be the challenges to kind of empathize, to really having that perspective taking? You know, we many parents we would like to jump into solution. We are just at the rush of want to figure out things out something, but it sometimes it's really hard to share our own feeling, to share about genuinely thinking, empathizing. Things could be hard. So another thing I want to point it out, I think from the skit also illustrate that. I see that Jessica was trying to get help, want to see a doctor, reach out for a mental health provider. Now mom sounds like have some hesitancy for Jessica to see a doctor. I wonder what is in the way. You want to share with us, mom? What could be your worries?
Yeah, so I think Jessica has a lot of things that she could be happy about, and every person feels sad sometimes. And so maybe she could figure out a solution and not be so sad and doesn't need a doctor for that.
I see. Okay. So sounds like in your mind, like it's more like a feeling is an emotional wellness, it's a normal side of emotion. Sometimes you feel sad, but like that she could figure things out when does not need professional help. But if that would be something that what do you think what could be something would reach to the level need to reach mental health provider? Would that be I guess I'm trying to get to that is that like we're talking about this is a immigrant family. Perhaps sometime we should do a better job as a mental health provider, need to do a better job to talk about or educate a family what does mental health treatment would look like, even like a therapy or talk therapy, what is it like to be expected, like, you know, like a lot of cultural concept in our community, like talking, even sharing with some negative or challenges to a total stranger. It could be not a common practice in a generation. So I'm wondering, like, what could be something like challenging or like something that you wish you would know more before considering reaching out for help?
I think I would want to know kind of what the doctor does and why Jessica would need this type of service. And it's not something she can do on her own.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So like a lot, more like education, more description, and things like that. Yeah. So like I wish like we could do. I think like it is really true that we need do such a better job for promoting like cultural informed care in many of the mental health services. You know, like perhaps like we could promote. I think that's why we need to talk more about that, like to promote the emotional wellness. I wish like we could, you know, reaching out to get help for mental health. It could be something like we go to see a primary care doctor. Every year we have a annual physical to check blood sugar, to check blood pressure. And so before it get to something concerning, you know, like that prevention model of mental health, that could be something we can achieve. Yeah, so that's something I want invite our audience to think about. And in your family or in your culture, what could be some barrier for reach out for help, or what would be something like we can so-called like stigma or like, you know, roadblock to reaching out for help? Every culture or every individual have their own story. I will encourage everyone to share and think about that. All right, I guess lastly, I would invite Jessica to, like, if there's one thing you want mom to change if we would have this conversation again, what would that be? what would you like to see change for mom?
I think I would like to see her attitude be like more one of non-judgmental curiosity, like in terms of how I'm feeling before she jumps into her solutions.
Okay, so more curious and less judgmental. Okay. I see. So mom, if there's one thing that you want Jessica to change, what would that be? What do you want her to change if we have this conversation again?
Yeah, so I would want Jessica to be able to come to me when she has a problem, and like immediately, or she's able to come to me. And I think that comes a lot down to me being open and being able to listen to her. So that's something I'll probably have to work on.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I really appreciate both. Like we are able to compromise and get to a middle ground. Right. So like let's do it again. So we will have the alternative scenario. Action.
Jessica, what's happening with you? I heard from Grandma that you're thinking about hurting yourself and you're really unhappy and you want to see a doctor. What's wrong?
Oh my God, I didn't think grandma was going to. Oh, mom,
What's wrong?
do you actually
Yeah, I want to know what's going on.
want to know what's wrong with me?
If I didn't want to know, why would I be asking you?
To yell at me more because I'm not good enough?
No,
I don't know.
I don't yell at you because you're not good enough. I'm yelling at you because I'm trying to make you better.
Oh my God, mom. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. And that's the problem. I've been really sad, okay? And
You've been sad?
yeah, for a long time now. And it's gotten so much worse with the pandemic and staying home all the time. And like I've been getting bombarded by all these randos on Instagram that are telling me it's all my fault and that coronavirus is here, Chinese virus.
Just delete Instagram. I don't have Instagram, so I don't get those messages. I don't have those bad feelings.
Mom, it's not Instagram's fault. It's the people.
I'm
and
giving you a solution.
It's the people on Instagram and you're not listening. Mom, I don't think you understand how stressful it's been being home all the time. You and dad are always fighting, always yelling at me. And with grandma getting sick last week,
Grandma is fine now.
Mom, you asked me what's wrong. You want to know. You actually want to listen to me because I don't feel like you're listening to me. It just feels like every time I try to say something, you just try to tell me why I'm wrong.
Okay, okay.
But that doesn't make what I'm feeling is not real, you know?
Yeah, okay. Okay, I want to listen to you about what's wrong. I don't want you to be unhappy, but I don't want you to have to see a doctor.
Okay, but I think I need to go see a doctor, Mom. There's a whole field of medicine that exists for this. It's not fake. It's not just for like crazy people or whatever. I get really sad and I don't know what to do about that. And so it makes me want to hurt myself and I don't know how to not feel that way.
Okay,
And honestly, Mom, like I didn't want to talk to you about it because I didn't think you would understand or want to do anything about it. I told grandma about it just because I got to a point that it just came out, but I need help and I don't know what to do.
I know you trust Grandma a lot, and Grandma loves you, and she was worried, so that's why she told us. Grandma thinks you should see a doctor. Jessica, I've never really heard about, I just heard about people killing themselves because they got way too stressed out or something other crazy thing. I can't even think about something like that happening to you. But it sounds like people on Instagram and just the whole pandemic are really having an impact on you. And maybe I haven't been thinking about how you're doing from your perspective.
Yeah, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. I know that I have like a roof over my head and all those things. And even with that, I still can't feel happy. And that makes me feel even worse.
I don't really get what's going on either, but I worry about you. Let's try to figure it out together, okay? Let's make an appointment with the doctor. I'll go there with you.
Okay, I love you, Mom.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the end of the skit. Thank you both, Mom and Jessica. That was great. Thank you. So I pass the time to Peggy. What's next for us?
Thank you, Dr. Yuan. Wow, every time I've seen that skit more than once, and every time I see it, it just amazes me and brings me back a little bit of flashbacks of when I grew up. But really, really great work. I know it takes a lot of bravery to really come forward and just kind of put this presentation on. So I want to thank I want to thank Vicky and Skylar for your participation in this skit, and also Dr. Yuen for your moderation as well. For now, I'd like to move on to our breakout rooms. Obviously, what we just saw, there's a lot to reflect on regarding the scenes that we saw, our feelings, our thoughts, anything we want to share. So I'd like to share this screen with you. Give me 1 second. Okay. So for this screen, okay. So as we place everyone into their breakout rooms, I'd like for you to just think about some things you want to share with your group. We like to ask for your full participation. That includes turning on your camera during the session, including your names and also your pronouns on the screen. And more importantly, the space is really for us to cultivate safety. Be curious, be open, most importantly, be respectful. And we're here to offer emotional support as well if needed. And we're here to really guide you through these feelings. So yeah, I look forward to doing that. Afterwards, we'll come back to the main room after we come back from our breakout rooms, and we'll have like a little bigger discussion about what we discuss. So we'll go ahead and wait while we're placed into our rooms. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main room. We might have a few stragglers, but I'm sure they'll make their way into the main room again. So, we want to hear what was talked about in your breakout rooms. I hope that everyone had really great conversations about tonight's workshop. At this point, I'd like to invite the facilitators onto the floor to discuss what was discussed, and to also just share the thoughts of your group members. And feel free to unmute yourself anytime to share your thoughts, but we would love to kind of broaden this conversation with everybody. Some things to think about is what was your emotional reaction? Like, were there any differences between the two versions of the skits, or did watching the skit kind of give you an idea of something, or like a thought that you've never really thought about before, or you thought, oh, you know what, that's right, that's a really good perspective. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all that.
I can go first.
Yes, please.
So in our breakout room, our emotional reaction generally was sort of a feeling of really strong empathy for the daughter character, especially in the problematic scenario, and just sort of like being able to relate to that scenario and really feel for the daughter, but also for the mother, and understand that it's hard to like sort of find help or get help. And for us, the people in our breakout room, the discussion of emotions and mental health topics, generally they weren't very common in the families or cultures represented in our breakout rooms, particularly because of the strong stigma surrounding it, whether that be like a cultural thing or just like in that area. Like, I know a lot of the people in our breakout room were from rural areas. So being in like a smaller community sort of with people who are less likely to understand made it harder to get help.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great point. Thank you for sharing. Great point. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess oh, go ahead. Biren, go ahead.
Sorry. So
What to
I think in our group we had wonderful conversations. So I really appreciate that in our group we have participants from different age groups. So we have younger participants and we also have older participants. So everyone just reflect themselves, reflect their feeling from all different positions in their life. So we have participants can more relate to doctors. We have participants more related to parents. So but we all think that the communication is really important. We also talk about why those communications or why those conversations are difficult in household, because like especially when their children grow up a little bit, like went to college or leave their household. So it could be like distance like when we don't live together, we all experience different life. So that communication can be different, can be difficult. And sometimes that like what happened in the kid, so the communication may not be direct, like direct between the mother or the daughter. When the children want to seek for help, they may directly go to their grandparents. So when the parents got the information, already the secondhand information, so it also increases difficulty. Yeah, so I think we have wonderful conversation and wonderful participants.
Nice. Wow, amazing. So encouraging. And well, our breakout group, like we are all rock star, like professionals, so amazing. So I learned so much from them. And then I really touched by how our discussion about like we mainly like most people will feel like immediate empathy toward toward Jessica, but also how important it is also we can empathize. We need to empathize for mom as well, how difficult it could be. And I hear that a lot of participants saying that like a lot of emotional word, like feeling like powerless, fear come out as anger. That like oftentimes our experience working with parents, actually they're waiting for a moment that someone to hear them, to really understand them and connect them. And how working with parents and actually could be a really great way to showing a model for the parents to be a great listener to Jessica. So it could be like working as a system kind of approach. So I really appreciate that we all sharing a lot of wisdom together. The cross-cultural, cross-generational gap, parents, how they may raise in a different way, have their own value and upbringing, how they grow up can really affect how they understand, have the capacity to knowing about the children as well. So there's so many like different concepts make the cross-generational differences, make the communication could be hard. So really appreciate our discussion. Did anyone in our group want to share? Like, more than welcome to. We're really informal group and we're intimate and welcoming group. So feel free to unmute yourself, anyone to share.
I can share what our group talked about and some of the questions we kind of asked. We all agreed like the wording itself, just how you open a conversation, like what's wrong with you, is really important. Like it just sets the mood immediately for the dialogue. And then we also kind of thought that the fact that Jessica had the connection with her grandma was really interesting. And then I was thinking this too, like, because if I wanted to communicate with my grandparents, like there would be a language barrier. So I almost wonder, like, you know, are the parents like first generation, second generation, like are the grandparents, like, you know, have they been in North America for a long time? Like, I think those are all factors that can impact the culture in the family, and therefore like the connections between, you know, the parents and the grandparents and the children. So we thought that was like something to think about as well.
Very good point. Very good point. I also want to just quickly share in my group, we had some really good discussions. Lou and Shaima were in my group, and we had a really good discussion about just the differences of, like, for example, what Dr. Yuen had said, just the generational differences in communication. I think that's just very obvious. I think that so what Lou had mentioned is that a lot of the parents think they have the solution, right? I think in the skit, when the parents said, you know, well, I'm giving you the solution. And sometimes that's not really the case, depending on someone's perspective. We really don't know what the solution is because we don't really know what is the perspective of others. And also, solutions are very different nowadays compared to what it was before. Nowadays, something as simple as just access to certain technologies and access to mental health care is not the same as it was many years ago. Nowadays, we can text our therapists. Nowadays, we can just send like a virtual email to our therapists. So that's very different. And so when we think about that, a lot of the generations before us never really had that access or those type of resources. So they really just had to adapt what worked for them. So with that being said, you know, we can't really pinpoint a lot of the solutions most of the time. Sometimes not having a solution is kind of the solution for the time being.
So in my group, we kind of talked about, even though like some of us came from like different cultures, we experienced some similar challenges with our parents, not really wanting to talk about mental health. But like in the future, you know, few of the participants had children, and that's like something they want to discuss with their future generations, and that like both family and society plays an important role in mental health. And it seems like there's like less of a stigma than there was in the past or like our parents' generation, and that really helps with being able to be open about mental health. We also did discuss some of the like emotions that came with the skit, kind of the anxiety that participants could feel that the mom was experiencing, and just kind of talking about her perspective as well.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, no, I agree. Is there anyone else who would like to share their perspectives or what was discussed in their breakout rooms? Or just thoughts that really came up to mind, anything like that? Okay. So with respect to everyone's time, what we can do is we can move on. For the next thing that we would like to share, let me pull this up. So for now, it's going to be our Q&A section. Thank you so much for everyone's wonderful conversation that we just held. I'm certain that we will all continue to think about these takeaways and really just move forward with what to really do moving forward in terms of just thinking how we communicate with other people and just taking in the perspective of others and how we can really benefit from that without doing any harm to our communities. I'd like to welcome this Q&A section to allow audience members to ask us any questions about tonight's work or the work that we do or initiatives. And I will try my best to also monitor the chat for any questions that come through there as well. And I'll just stop sharing my screen for now. So. Okay, so I would love to ask one of the questions that I always want to know from our performer's perspective. Every time we put on a skit like this, I like to ask this question because it's always a different answer. And it's always a good different answer. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, on how you respond to this. Obviously, there's no right or wrong way. But in portraying family dynamics, in terms for our performers, do you think that it impacted your personal perspectives on family relationships or cultural nuances? Did it kind of remind you of certain things that you reflect on personally, like in your experiences? Like, did it kind of relight that fire under your butt to make you think about, you know, how your personal experiences were by doing the skit?
I can go first. So I was the daughter, Jessica. And I feel like honestly for me the acting wasn't like too bad, just because I've definitely had similar conversations with my mom, and I love her and I know she means well, but I think initially when they don't understand something, they just want to like solve it for you before they know what's really going on. And yeah, so I think it definitely reminded me of my own personal experiences. But after I've talked to her, you know, just letting her know, like, I don't need the solution right now. I just want you to understand. And she's been like holding her tongue more when I tell her things. And then she'll say like, okay, like, what do you want to do? Like, you know, and then we can like think about that instead of kind of just taking over with her solutions. And I think that's been really nice.
Yeah, so I was the mom in the scenario, and it was a very challenging character for me to portray, I would say. But I was able to kind of see it from the perspective, kind of seeing her anxiety and how there was really just a communication issue where the mom had good intentions behind it, but the delivery of it, you know, wasn't the best, and where it was very simplistic and trying to achieve the like improving mental health, you know, offering solutions rather than, you know, getting psychiatric care. But I did learn about like kind of the importance of like bridging the generational gap, given that, you know, the mom might just not be able to understand what is going on or not recognize the resources available. And it's more, you know, she's coming from an area of panic, anxiety, rather than, you know, not wanting Jessica to get the help that she needs.
I'd like to read this question in the chat. I think it's a very important question. Someone asked, what do you do if the person with a mental health problem doesn't want to seek help? How would we respond to that if anyone wants to just give a go at providing a response to that question?
Yeah, it is such a tough spot to be in, but like and sometimes I experience patient behaving like that as well. I guess you know, like I think first of all, like being persistent and also not judgmental. Sometimes like people do not get help. It could be a byproduct of what they need help for. You know, like when people who are depressed and you know anxious, they just don't lack of the motivation to get help. It's like, why bother? It could be like that, and it could be easily get misinterpreted. I work with teenager a lot. You know, many parents would say that, oh, my teens like just making excuse not going to school or just being lazy. Like it could be happening like almost like a version 1 about skit, right? But how do we not be judgmental, be consistent and continue, be around and be consistent, be next to that person to provide help. And eventually that person will feel like someone really cares for me, that I have hope, create a hope and for the person to want to get help. So I see that is one way if we're in line of like what the skit content we talk about. Any other answer want to add in, or we can move on to the next question?
I think along with I'm not a professional I'm not a medical doctor or anything, but from my experience, I think along with being supportive, just making sure that they know that you're there for them to listen, as well as like not being judgmental.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One question in the chat, let me see, I'll try my best to read all the questions. Let's see, one question says, how do you approach the characters, or perhaps like how do you approach someone who is in the same boat as the characters? How do you find that that mental health concern? Like what are some of the challenges in doing so? Great question.
Is it referring to how we create a skit? I guess I'm not following. Is it one of the clinical question, or like how we create a skit?
Raj Kumar, would you like to elaborate on your question a little bit more? Let me give them my email address so they can connect with me and we can hopefully help with this question. Okay. Let's see, let me read this one. My creates away from being Ellen, I agree. Medicine has definitely changed since a while, many years ago. I personally don't really work in the specific physician setting. I'm not sure if that's what, let me see. If need more, referred to counselor. My daughter's now 39, but was considered an invisible child as I was mislabeled and diagnosed. Male doctors did not know anything. Yeah. Oh, sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. How do we find what is mental health? Raj Kumar, mental health can be a variety of things. It doesn't have to be it's basically on a spectrum. It doesn't have to really be labeled into anything minute or anything too small. It can mean a variety of things, and it just really depends on the issue at hand as well as the person as well too. I do have one question. I do want to share one more question before we move on to our additional slides. One of them is, let's see. I would like to ask if anyone would like to share any memorable experiences or any stories of personal growth that have really resulted from involvement in projects like this or other projects that you've been involved with when it comes to cultural representation. We'd love to hear about more resources too. So if anyone has any experiences on that, I'd love to hear some of your experiences. Okay, so for me, what really has helped my personal growth was just becoming a nurse. I think that before I became a nurse, it was really difficult for me to see things from the eyes of a patient, especially in mental health. I think that growing up, I probably should have sought a little bit of help, which I didn't. But when I see my patients nowadays who are willing to really vouch for themselves and really fight for their own right and fight for their mental health, it really is a type of bravery that I never had witnessed before. So that's definitely something that has really contributed to my learning and my growth. And I really value this experience. And it's definitely something that I wouldn't have exposure to had it not been for the work that I do. And I'm so fortunate to be able to really collaborate with a lot of other workers who do so much more, from the physicians to the therapists to the housekeepers to just the social workers. It's really amazing to kind of see everyone help out and to have everyone on the same boat when it comes to just really doing the best for our patients. So my experiences have really kind of catapulted my desire to really do more for my own community. So let's see. Okay, so before we end our workshop tonight, I would like to share a few important slides. The first important slide I'd like to share is that Chat Together is also having another webinar on March 11th at 7 to 8:30 p.m. And part of this webinar, it's called Acting Together. It is kind of a newer initiative, but what we do is we provide training on how to really reflect and grow professionally and personally in terms of improv training. In our webinars, we really dive into scenarios that really involve cultural dilemmas, and we explore how to navigate interactions in a clinical setting. The webinar that we have coming up on March 11th is the final part of our 3-part series. And the format is a little bit similar to tonight's workshop, but we do include a panel of experts who weigh in on the experience of our skit, and also for the questions of the audience as well. Please reach out to us if you're interested in joining or attending. I did put my email in on the chat, so please email me or Dr. Yuen if you have any questions or if you're interested in participating in this next webinar. The next slide I have up is a list of mental health resources for both providers and non-providers. They are resources that are that we put together on a Google Doc. You can scan the QR code on the right-hand side for, I guess, a more elaborate list of resources. It will also be put into the chat for easy access. So it can just be one click away. Perfect. Thank you, Gwen. So please refer to that link. And then for the next slide, we ask everyone to please participate in this feedback survey for the workshop that we just did. You can scan the QR code, or once again, we'll put the link into the chat for easy access. And overall, we really hope that you found tonight's workshop really helpful and that you found a lot of takeaways from this experience. We really appreciate you being here. I know that some of the topics that we discussed you know, were not easy, or some of the conversations that we had in our breakout rooms were not easy. But we do welcome everyone's thoughts and just your generosity of just sharing your time with us tonight. I'd like to pass the time to also Dr. Yuen if there's anything you'd like to share, or I can pass the time back to Dr. Che as well too.
I guess I want to say a big thank you and gratitude. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Such a great discussion and participation. Thank you all. And I leave my email at the chats too if people want to stay in touch and connect, and really delighted to do that. I pass the time to Dr. Che.
Thank you so much. What a insightful and interactive workshop. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Your active participation and insightful contribution made this workshop even more meaningful. So appreciate your time and participation. There's another post-event survey. There are many surveys for this workshop. This is what Ohana Center of Excellence. We want to hear from you, your feedback, your insights about today's workshop. So please take a moment to complete this survey for us. And there's one new exciting news. So the participants who made it all the way through the end will be receiving a certificate of attendance. You don't need to do anything. You can, we will actually send our certification directly to you if you attended 90% of the time, which is so cool. Okay, so this is our QR code, and Gwen will share also our the link for the survey. There are many ways you can join us, follow us. We have a social media, check them out and see what events we have, what kind of training and services we provide. Like today, we are planning so many cool workshops and webinars. And also email, listserv. Please join us and receive update information from us and stay connected. Thank you so much, everyone, especially for our amazing team of speakers and presenters. I learned so much and memories came back to me. I want to do more what I learned today and practice with my students and at work. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day and see you until next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.